The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters for this Tuesday, the 25th, episode 147, for here on NOK Network, the video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys at Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario for awesome intro track, originally recorded by the Moody Blues, with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Tara Simpson, along with the one and only Bluefall Various, who has chosen all of our stories for us. Hello, Tara.
Well, hello, hobbies, and hello, everyone. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He's our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while that sounds like fun, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick that toad.
Don't lick the toad. Don't lick the toad. Oh, man, it's so great to have you back. I like having Ron here. It's nice and everything, but it's not my joint host, Tara.
I know. I've been away on and off quite a bit this winter with everything I've got going on here in my crazy life and stuff. But I'm back this week, but I won't be here next week. It'll be you and Ron again because I will be in sunny Florida enjoying some fun in the sun with family and friends and enjoying some drag racing at the Bradenton track. So I won't be around, guys, but you guys will have a blast, I'm sure, reporting on the news.
Right. And if you guys are racers, you'll see Tara on the tracks going, woo! With her little Canadian cozy.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I'm excited. I'm not as big of a race fan as everyone I'm going with because I'm pretty new to the sport, but it should be a good time, and I'm hoping to learn a lot more about drag racing as we go.
Oh, man, I remember when I was up in the mountains drag racing watching it. It was fun. I would never do it because it was too fast for me, but watching it's fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. Those cars go super fast. Like, those guys have got something wrong with their brain cells up there to want to go that fast, but they enjoy it, and that's what they do, right?
Oh, yeah. So our first article that Mr. Bufo has picked out for us is right from SciTechDaily.com. And SciTechDaily.com says psychedelic breakthrough. Scientists successfully achieved total synthesis of ibogaine. And this is by the University of California.
Yeah, so this is an interesting article. The discovery opens up opportunities to study the therapeutic properties of ibogaine and related compounds. Ibogaine, a psychoactive plant derivative, has garnered attention for its anti-addictive and antidepressant properties. However, it is a finite resource extracted from plants such as the iboga shrub and the small fruited Volcanaga tree. Sorry, I've got some allergies happening today. Additionally, it can be used or it can cause irregular heartbeats, pose safety risks, and highlighted the need for a deeper understanding of how this molecular structure derived its biological effects. In the study published in Nature Chemistry, researchers at the University of California, Davis Institute for Psychedelics and Neurotherapeutics reported the successful total synthesis of ibogaine, along with ibogaine analogs and related compounds from pyridine, a relatively inexpensive and widely available chemical. The team's strategy enabled the synthesis of 4 naturally occurring ibogaine-related alkaloids, as well as several non-natural analogs. Overall yields from 6% to 29% only after only 6 or 7 steps, a marked increase in efficacy from previous synthetic efforts to produce similar compounds. Ibogaine complex chemical structure makes it hard to produce in significant quantities, and this challenging chemistry has historically limited medicinal chemistry efforts to develop improved analogs, said the study's corresponding author, David E. Olson, director of the IPN and a professor of chemistry and biochemistry and molecular medicine at UC Davis. Performing total synthesis solves both problems. We can make it without having to harvest tons and tons of plant material, and we can also make analogs, several of which are demonstrating really interesting properties.
Despite the cardiac risk of ibogaine, Olson noted that the compound is gaining popularity as a treatment for substance use disorders, traumatic brain injury, and other conditions. Some people want to find ways to administer ibogaine more safely, and you might be able to mitigate risk and careful cardiac monitoring and magnesium supplementation, he said. But maybe we just need ibogaine 2.0, a better version that still produces the profound anti-addictive and antidepressant effects, but doesn't have that cardiac risk. Analogs of interest. Olson highlighted 2 ibogaine analogs of interest from the study. The first analog was the mirror image of ibogaine. In chemistry, this mirror image trait is referred to as chirality. Like your left and right hands, such molecular compounds can't be superposed on each other. Nature only produces one version, as the therapeutic effects of ibogaine are coming from interactions with another chiral entity, like enzyme or receptor. Then you expect only the natural version to have an effect, Olson said, but it's non-specific. Both compounds would produce an effect. When the researchers tested the effect of ibogaine and its mirror image compound on neurons, they discovered that the only natural one promoted neuronal growth. This allowed us to show for the first time that ibogaine's effects are probably the result of it being bounded to a particular receptor, Olson said. We don't have all the details of what receptor that is, but a natural compound is a good tool for probing this biology. The second analog of interest was -10-fluorobenzamine. During experiments, the compound exhibited exceptional effects on neuronal structure and function, promoting growth and reconnection. Additionally, it showcased powerful effects on serotonin transporters, which are proteins that regulate serotonin levels at synapses. Oh, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, this is very cool. The serotonin transponder is the target of many antidepressants and is hypothesized to be relevant to ibogane's therapeutic efficacy, Olson said. The findings, according to researchers, indicate that 10-fluoroibogamine should be further investigated as treatment for substance use disorder, depression, and related neuropsychiatric diseases. Safer and more effective medicines. According to Olson, the research was 10 years in the making, with the team exploring multiple synthesis routes, each with varying levels of effectiveness. A lot of these iboga alkaloids and ibogaine analogs are not made cheap, readily available starting materials, Olson said. The difference with our strategy is that we are relying on a very abundant, inexpensive chemicals, and we can assemble the pieces in just a few steps. Overall, our goal was to create a more efficient process. The research team hopes that their total synthesis strategy will provide researchers with a roadmap for efficiently accessing ibogaine analogs, ultimately leading to safer and more effective medicines. And then they list their references for that below. And that is it.
Oh, that's a really good article. And I like that. I'm still at a bypass between natural medicines and synthetic medicine.
Yeah, again, when you start to synthesize something, you're no longer taking it right from nature, right? I mean, they're using a bunch of chemicals that aren't even from the iboga plants or anything. They're just taking some chemicals, mixing them in a lab to make them resemble that. I'm not sure of the process because I am not a chemical engineer of any kind. But to me, that's not the same as taking it right from nature.
Oh, I agree.
But if it works and it's safe and effective and it does the exact same thing and it gives access to people without over harvesting of these plants in their natural habitat, then that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as it works the same.
Wow, that whole time. I'm gonna pause this. My computer froze. And here for our next article, we come straight from Fortune.com, which is here's a look into Silicon Valley's executive psychedelic slumber parties that cost over $3,000. And this is written by Annie Friedman.
Yeah, so for years, Elon Musk has been a proponent of using ketamine to treat depression. The Tesla CEO criticized popular antidepressant drugs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, saying they zombify people. I have a ketamine prescription for when my brain chemistry sometimes goes super negative, he wrote on X in 2023. Musk isn't the only high-profile executive using psychedelic drugs. They're growing in popularity among the startup community and increasingly being used in leadership retreats and coaching. Two co-founders of an organization offering ketamine-assisted coaching sessions in the San Francisco Bay Area revealed to Wired the details of their operation, which cater to primarily CEOs of Fortune 100 companies, CFOs, and other C-level founders. They're like, okay, what's next? What's the next horizon? Because I've checked pretty much every box, said co-founder Shuang, a self-selected pseudonym. What is ketamine? Ketamine, also known as the party drug Special K, was the primary cause of death for Friends star Matthew Perry in 2023. The drug is approved for use by doctors and veterinarians as anesthetic, but it's also capable of producing hallucinogenic side effects, according to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Association. Those effects can distort the user's senses, altering their perception of sound, sights and sound, while making them feel more disconnected or out of control. That disassociation can make people feel detached from the environment they're in, according to the DEA, while inducing feelings of calm, relaxation, immobility, relief from pain, and amnesia that can leave a user with no memories of events while under the influence of the drug.
What a ketamine journey for executives looks like. The 3-day experience costs $2,600 plus $350 for a medical assessment and ketamine prescription. Meals are included, but lodging and transportation are not. According to Schwan, these are the loneliest people. They have to lead and go and through so many things by themselves. They come and see that they're not alone and let it go to the burden of being so protected all the time, Sean said. They just want to be people. But before they can embark on their ketamine journey, the co-founders put them through a medical and psychological screening, including questioning about whether they're working with a therapist or have participated in a similar program. Duan says they take extra consideration to evaluate those with a history of trauma, schizophrenia, bipolar, substance abuse. The experience involved 9 to 10 clients at a time, somewhere in the Mission District of San Francisco, Schwang explained. Floor chairs, cushions with upright seat backs are arranged in a circle in the room with candles in the center. Each seat has a rose and information about what to expect from the psychedelic experience. The vibes are witchy, Schwang said. Once the process begins, the founders ask again for the consent of participation who are able to change their minds if they don't want to experiment with the drug. Then our medical doctor and registered nurse distribute the medicine through a shot. It's all intramuscular, Schwab said. Wow.
Yeah, after that, what Shung calls an executive coaching psychedelic slumber party begins. In the same room, the executives are tucked into their own nests with blankets, pillows, earplugs, eye masks, and even stuffed animals if they'd like. Because ketamine is more dissociative medicine, there is this sense of naturally going inward and being quiet, Schwang added. The first day includes a psycholytic dose of ketamine, which Shung explains is not a full psychedelic dose, but it lets you kind of teeter into the realms. The second day is mid-dose, Schwang said, which is a day all about medicine and integration, and there's coaching around it. Schwang's co-founder, using the pseudonym Area Stone, said that while people are on the ketamine journey, the organization's founders are all very attentive, with 4 of them facilitating the sites. We have seen over 100 ketamine journeys at this point, Stone told Wired. Schwang believes there are no bad psychedelic trips, only challenging and uncomfortable journeys. Let's say someone's trauma comes through, Schwang says. One way that could show up is you are screaming, or a lot of energy is just ripping through your body. You'll get off your mat and you'll just want to run. You'll think you're in a dangerous situation. Schwang said that the way they handle that is to make sure the person knows they are safe by holding their hands, by taking their mask off, or walking around the room. All of these things help bring you back to now, Schwang said. Stone said when the high wears off, people say they don't want the feeling of it to end, leaving them to ask, can I integrate this way of being into my life? After 2 ketamine experiences, they turn to the coaching aspect, Schwang says, with questions like, what does this mean for me? How did I feel? And how do I bring something positive from that journey into my everyday life? A week and a half after the experience, clients engage in a virtual follow-up focused on how they can apply what they've learned to their leadership, Stone said.
That was a great article, man.
That's a great one.
So ketamine, I remember it back in the party days, the Special K and stuff. I never really took it for a medical sense. You hear a lot about it and stuff, and those treatments actually sound cheaper than what mushrooms would be.
Yeah, or comparable, depending on the healing center you journey to, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I don't know. I've never dabbled with ketamine, even recreational. That was just something I didn't come across in my youth, and as an adult, have had no need to. But for some people, it can be beneficial. I do know they use it in chronic pain treatments for some people, and it's been very successful for them. I have an aunt actually who has been through those treatments numerous times for her chronic pain issues.
Huh.
Yeah.
So this new article comes from Salon.com, and this is a gospel according to Anita Scalia, the world's most charismatic mushroom. And this poisonous psychedelic fungi is the latest wellness kick and may have been inspired many major religions. And this is written by Nico Borbov.
Yeah. In a snow-covered village on the northern outskirts of Moscow, Russia's most famous mycologist, Mikhail Vishnevsky, poured me a cup of light psychoactive mushroom tea. But it wasn't psilocybin, the psychedelic drug in so-called magic mushrooms, but instead the world's most charismatic fungi, the red and white fly agaric mushroom, known to scientists as Amanita muscaria. While both shrooms contain trippy molecules, their effects can be profoundly different. Fly agaric, unlike other mushrooms or plant-based psychedelics, immerses you so deeply that you can't tell what you're seeing from the real world, he explained. With psilocybin, you see things too, but you understand that you're in a room. There's a microwave. It might look funny, but it's still there. Fly agaric turns the world away from you completely and replaces it with something entirely. You can be sitting at a table in this room, and around you there'll be a forest and a path you must follow. So your experience is far stranger than you'd have from other plants or mushrooms. For you, this new world seems real, and it can be very scary for first-timers. With its iconic bright red cap dotted with white spots, Amanita muscaria is probably the world's most recognized fungi in the world. The default mushroom emoji on WhatsApp, and the power-up mushroom for Mario on his quest to rescue Princess Peach. With his books and lectures, Vinishki almost single-handedly started a massively popular trend of Russians microdosing or trying to invoke lucid dreams and mystical experiences with fly agaric. He's the closest Russia has to Rick Doblin, Paul Stamets, Michael Pollan, or Terence McKenna, some of the patriarchs of the so-called psychedelic renaissance. But it's catching on stateside too. Between 2022 and 2023, Google searches for the mushroom surged 114%. Unlike psilocybin, this mushroom hasn't been widely banned yet. It's still legal in 49 states. The lone exception being Louisiana.
Wow, my luck.
and online retailers offering fly agaric-based mushrooms, smoking blends, and tinctures can sleep soundly, knowing their front doors won't be kicked in by SWAT teams with machine guns in the middle of the night. That's good to know. Except where you are.
Right. Well, that's okay. Because, however, in December, the Food and Drug Administration ruled that muscaria products do not meet the health and safety standards. The mushrooms can be poisonous with unpleasant side effects, including coma, convulsions, and death. Though these outcomes are incredibly rare, but not unheard of. Psilocybin mushrooms, on the other hand, are considered safer than alcohol. So what's inside fly agaric that makes it so risky, but people still seek it out? Amanita muscaria tends to be a highly visual substance, and one might be used with tryptamines and other kind of plastic psychedelics. Kevin Feeney, a lecturer at Central Washington University and editor of a compendium on fly agaric, told Phil, at high doses, people become less coordinated and they also experience blackouts similar to alcohol and often enter into either a dissociative state or a state of delirium. And these things are quite distinct from one experience with more traditional psychedelics. Fly agarics contain no psilocybin, but two other chemicals, muscimol and ibotenic acid. Muscimol, I'm probably saying it wrong, is responsible for a soothing, Valium-like sensation and, in heroic doses, hallucination, while ibotenic acid is not inherently psychoactive but can be converted into muscimol in the body in small doses. Muscimol can help treat sleeplessness and anxiety. Ibotenic acid can be dangerous as it's linked to brain lesions akin to Alzheimer's, and many explain some of the more negative side effects of these fungi. Holy cow.
Yeah. Wieniawski became fascinated with fly agaric through the accounts of explorers in the 17th and 18th centuries, witnessing mushroom rituals and shamanism in Siberia. Before the Russians and Finns introduced them to vodka, muscaria was not only a sacrament, but the inebriant of choice for the native tribes of Siberia and Lapland in northern Scandinavia, eaten in a soup or fermented in a brew. Sometimes the natives fed the mushrooms to reindeer before drinking their urine. Oh, gross. Or each other's after metabolizing someone's body. It's more potent and less toxic.
Oh my lordy! No drinking of the urine.
Yeah, that's kind of gross. I'm just saying. Where there wasn't enough fly agaric, they wouldn't let pee go to waste. Ew, said Wieniawski. If you had to pee, they'd pass you a cup. And this cycle can happen 3 or 4 times. Someone pees in a cup for the next person, they drink it, and so on, until the 5th man along. Oh, gross. The fly agaric is a sacred mushroom. It was more prestigious to be the one eating it than the one drinking the pee, although the pee is stronger. According to Wieniawski, the psychedelic golden shower would take the shamans to the spirit realm, where they would ask where to herd their reindeer next week, where the tastiest grass for them to chew on, and so on. The spirits appeared and tell them to head north, take a left, and everything will be peachy. But the mycologist believes our relationship with fly agaric goes back further still, all the way back to ancient roots of religion itself. Now there is evidence that all the Abrahamic faiths, namely Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, as well as their later incarnations such as Mormonism, descended from a 10 to 12,000 year old cult centered around red fly agaric. Vaneshki explained. Experts tracing how language has evolved from ancient times to the present have concluded there is a taboo on the fly agaric. Everyone talks about the apple, but there's a newfangled innovation that only appeared in the 18th century. There wasn't an apple in the Bible originally. It was just a forbidden fruit. Perhaps it was more comfortable to think of them as apples.
Oh, wow. Fly agarics contain no psilocybin.
No, you're way off.
How? Okay, my bad. What's going on?
He's referring to the controversial theory proposed by equally controversial British scholar John Allegro in his 1970 book, The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, in which he argued that Christ never existed and the Bible is just an allegory for a mushroom-crazed sex cult. Needless to say, this was not well received by the faith. Less scandalously, the shrooms have been suggested as the secret ingredient in Soma Heoma, the trippy concoction from an ancient Indo-Aryan scriptures, forming the basis of modern Hinduism and Zoroastrianism.
So even me, 100% militant atheist, one of my first trips on red fly agaric, I had an experience that can be described as anything other than religion. Vichensky recalled, I witnessed how the universe was born, how the gods fought one another on a cosmic level, and how one of them created in the sun or world and everything in it, the purpose of humanity. I understand how to found a new religion, the Church of Shroom, where I would be the Pope. I knew exactly what to do with the priest and how the energy would flow through me to honor the gods for which I'd be granted the eternal life. The whole flyer Garrett gospel was in my head when I came to for the next 3 weeks. I felt like I was the prophet. I had to tell everyone what I'd seen. But I knew on a certain level this is just a trick on the mind played by the mushroom, and it faded away. Sadly, Russian conquest and Soviet oppression have diminished indigenous shamanism, but thanks to Vichetsky and his wife, as well as celebrities such as actor and self-admitted psychonaut Vladimir, microdosing has made its way into Russian popular culture. Microdosing entails ingesting small red fly agaric capsules throughout the day for a mildly sedative sensation for a good night's sleep, as well as vivid lucid dreaming, and there's microdosing for a new outlook on life. Oh, wow. After you words, you don't think I'm going to travel to a different country or try a new job like you might after psilocybin, Potensky said. You think, shit, I'm grateful I even have a job in the first place. You think I have childhood trauma? I had a childhood. How cool is that? This is what Flyer Garrick points you to. It shows you all those problems you thought were problems aren't problems at all. You can just enjoy life. Everything that's troubling you is significant or insignificant. You should be grateful you have it. After this realization, people start walking with a little skip. I like skipping. Even your vision seems to improve. This lasts approximately 2 weeks. But he cautions that fly agaric is not under any circumstances just for fun. The effects can be strong because he advises against using them without supervision. Wow.
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest dangers, though, is at certain dose levels, people become unaware of their surroundings and they do become kind of impervious to pain and discomfort, Feeney warns, pointing to a case where a camper froze to death because he didn't have enough awareness to get himself inside warm clothes or a sleeping bag. At some point, it's really necessary to have a sober individual present who can watch out for the individual if they're going to be taking high doses of the mushroom. Indeed, trips can be very nerve-wracking and intense. There is another effect, looping visions, Vineshki warns. You appear in this new world, live in it, and very often your life ends in death. And when you die, you think that you die for real. Then the cycle begins again and again. You can die 3, 5, 7 times in a row, and you don't know if you're dying in the real world or not. When the trip is finally over, 8 or 12 hours later, the first emotion you see in their faces is absolute terror. It's very rare that your first trip will be a positive experience. Although scientific inquiry into the matter of scaries, Vineshki touts the benefit of fly agaric for treating sleeplessness, depression, and anxiety, or as a remedy for alcoholism. Obviously, this is something that requires actual research above and beyond the anecdotal reports. But there's a significant number of people reporting that using this mushroom in small quantities has helped them with their sobriety and getting them off substances like alcohol and benzodiazepines, which work on the same area of the brain as muscimol, Feeney explains. So it shouldn't be surprising that there is a connection there. And of course, muscimol is not a dependence-producing substance. So you have something that activates the same areas of the brain as these addictive substances like alcohol and benzodiazepines without triggering or activating that sort of dependence response. Others are skeptical. Fellow mycologists have questioned Vineshki's motives, pointing to his microdosing business empire, and dismiss his brand of fungotherapy as both dangerous and ineffective. Unfortunately, our Russian specialists are falling behind our scientists, Vineshki fired back. And what's more, they don't know anything about fly agaric. They consider it a scary, poisonous mushroom, a narcotic. Listening to them is just funny, as if they finished their education in the 70s or 80s and haven't learned anything new. Nonetheless, Amanita muscaria has evaded serious scrutiny so far. According to the Russian press, in 2023, export permits were issued for over 0.5 ton of dried fly agaric, destined as far as Kyrgyzstan, the Philippines, and even the U.S. Despite the FDA's decision in December, retailers can still operate openly a slightly gray area of the law. But while prohibition is a bad idea, under regulation is another. Last year, Diamond Strum's edibles, and we reported on this, were withdrawn from sale after dozens of emergency room visits, which the company blamed on their higher levels of muscimol than normal. However, only 6 of their 19 products tested by the FDA actually contain muscimol, and the agency admitted that muscimol cannot explain all of the symptoms reported by ill patients. Interesting.
Yeah, they're not investing money in the safety protocols and understanding safety parameters, Feeney said of the industry. They're not interested in that. They're interested in making a quick buck. And so they're just shoving stuff in there. They don't know how the substances are going to interact with one another. They don't appear to understand the dosing. They also don't appear to understand how much about Amanita muscaria. Well, a handful of these products have shown some traces of muscimol in them. It seems primarily that's absent, but a lot of these products will advertise muscarine, for example, and promote this. Muscarine is a compound that's found in the Amanita muscaria, but it's not psychedelic. It's not psychoactive. It's actually a poisonous compound that can be quite unpleasant. Symptoms of muscarine poisoning include muscle cramps, blurred vision, foaming from the mouth, and vomiting, and diarrhea. We're in a complicated situation. There's a sizable public demand for access to psychedelic substances. And we are really at a point in time where interest in these substances have moved beyond the confines of the third culture. So I think what we see is companies exploring this interest in demand by taking highly recognizable mushroom, Amanita muscaria, that people generally know as some kind of psychoactive or psychedelic properties, and they're saying our candies contain this and that makes it legal. Oh, wow, my thing just jumped again. But that's the gist of it. The problem is, of course, that most of these companies are really pulling a bait and switch. I'm glad Bufos put this article in here. However, it's we're seeing a lot of people that are having problems with these different mushrooms, the different psychedelic properties. They don't even hold the psilocybin.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting area right now with all of these companies kind of doing their own thing with no regulations, and it's hard to say.
It is. 1 second, and because guess what? It is medication time.
That's right, folks. It's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we'll return with more articles Bufo has chosen making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on the Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network. Oh, here it is. Now it came back. I was just about to pause it. Okay, it is this one.
Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at NOKNetwork.com.
Discover the treasure trove of flavors at Miss Jolly's Munchie Factory. Satisfy your cravings with our award-winning treats. Follow us on Instagram at Captain Rogers 705. Let Miss Jolly's Munchie Factory lift your spirits. Experience the comforting embrace of our freshly prepared soups and infused cornbread.
Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year. Movie nights. Spotlights on entertainment. And live on location coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Rumble, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Facebook. Check out our webpage at www.noknetwork.com.
Hey, hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyndinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dipset.
Smoke signals. Tayenda Naga.
Smoke signals. Tayenda Naga.
Smoke signals. Tayenda Naga.
Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram.
Smoke signals. Tayenda
Go
Naga.
and hold it in, feel it in your wrist.
Smoke signals. Tayenda Naga.
Check us out in Tayenda 55 Highway 49 in Tayenda. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Tune in daily to NOK Network's diverse podcasting lineup. Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Tara Simpson and Ron McNabb. Waking Up with the Waniac, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific with Tombstoner Wayne Cruz from Tombstone, Arizona. Grow 420, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern with Ron McNabb. Psychedelic Reporters, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Hobbies Puppets and Tara Simpson. Peace, News and Views, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Sir Stevo and Kim Cooper. Thursdays we have Open Your Eye with Kim Cooper and Tara Simpson, 8 p.m. Eastern. Followed by Thursday Night Vibes at 9:15 p.m. Eastern with Master and Mama Rochi. The IWK 710 Daily Sesh airs 7 nights a week with our rotating joint hosts, nightly at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in to all the podcasting on NOK Network.
Dudettes, enjoy the show, man.
And we're back from our medication session live on Psychedelic Reporters here on NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. Alrighty, so our next article comes from Psychedelic. Oh, wait. Wrong one. The UK, Psychedelic Alpha. I almost read the other one. Psychedelic Alpha writes, UK psychedelic research hindered by red tape. Experts tell lawmakers in parliamentary report. A new UK parliamentary report outlines the evidence base for psychedelic-assisted therapy and mental health treatment while highlighting regulatory hurdles that hinder research in the country. Wow, this is written by, it doesn't say.
No, but it's an interesting article. An independent... Oh, there it is. Written by Charles Bliss.
Would you like to read it for us?
Yeah. An independent parliamentary report summarizing the state of the UK psychedelic research and policy was released last week. Titled Psychedelic Assisted Therapy for Mental Health, Policy Considerations, or Post Brief 64. The document provided an overview of contemporary research, regulatory challenges, and policy considerations surrounding psychedelic-assisted therapy for mental health conditions. It aims to inform UK policymakers about psychedelic research and the challenges that must be addressed for its potential to be fully realized. The briefing, written by Jenny Chapman and Dr. Stephen Nollis, highlights the potential of PAT as a transformative treatment for mental health conditions, but emphasis needs to be more for emphasizes the need, holy fuck me, for more research, for regulatory reform and careful policy considerations to ensure safety, efficacy, and equitable access. A post brief is a document published by the UK Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology that makes research evidence accessible to members of Parliament. Post was originally inspired by the now defunct United States Office of Technology Assessment after a group of parliamentarians visited in 1985. The AOT was established to offer congressional members and committee objectives authoritative analysis of complex scientific and technical issues. Conservative Party politician Sir Ian Lloyd suggested to Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher that the UK government should install a similar institution to serve Parliament in the exact same way as such as institutions serve the Congress of the United States. After Thatcher refused to commit financial support, Lloyd pursued private charitable donations and founded the office in 1989. By 2001, Post had secured permanent government funding. Post supports knowledge exchange between scientists and politicians by identifying emerging areas of interest and publishing impartial, balanced, and peer-reviewed briefings to parliamentarians, government officials, and all-party parliamentary groups. These briefings support MPs and select committees by summarizing evidence on important public policy issues with a scientific or technological dimension. The reports are intended to help legislators understand the range of opinions on a subject and ensure that the best available research evidence and information is brought to bear on lawmaking and government scrutiny. Co-author Jenny Chapman told Psychedelic Alpha, Post consults a range of stakeholders, both inside and outside of Parliament, when deciding what to research, so we ensure our briefings are relevant and timely. For example, we conduct a thorough horizon scan and we seek feedback from the Post board members.
Post published rapid response articles in 2024 summarizing the evidence base for PAT in the treatment of addiction, eating disorders, PTSD, anxiety disorders, and depression. Chapman continued, the psychedelic-assisted therapy for mental health policy consideration briefing was written to accompany those summaries. Post Brief 64 was created in response to resurgent interest in psychedelic research as modern clinical trials evaluate the therapeutic potential of PAT. Scientific inquiry into these compounds were largely halted in the 1970s due to restrictive drug legislation, but in recent years, a groundwell of scientific, academic, and public interest in psychedelics has led to renewed demand to reevaluate their legal status. Psilocybin, for example, had been mentioned 5 times in the House of Commons and the House of Lords until 2022, according to Hansard data. But the topic has been raised 54 times, including the debate across the psilocybin treatments in 2022. With the exception of ketamine, all psychedelics are designated as Schedule 1 and Class A drugs in UK, which means they are considered to have recognized therapeutic or medicinal or medical potential, are the most harmful when misused, and carry the greatest legal penalties and possession and supply. Ketamine is currently classified as Class E, along with cannabis, amphetamines, and barbiturates, but the government is considered placing ketamine in the most restrictive category, Class A, alongside substances such as cocaine, heroin, MDMA, LSD, and psilocybin due to concerns over a significant rise in recreational ketamine use and associated health risks, including kidney and bladder damage. Universities and hospitals seeking to research drugs in Schedule 1 requires a home office license to conduct clinical trials. This status makes research into the compounds time-consuming, expensive, and logistically difficult, according to the Post-Brief. This is compounded by the public perception of drugs like LSD and psilocybin, which are often associated with recreational use and criminality. Stigma can hinder research funding and mainstream acceptance, and the report suggested.
Rescheduling psychedelic drugs would help remove impediments to research, which could generate evidence-based therapeutic interventions to address mental health conditions. One recent example of the restrictive efforts of the current scheduling status on research involving Irish 5-MeO-DMT drug developer GH Research, which had planned to use UK trial sites for its phase 2 study of GH001 in treatment-resistant depression. GH conducted the phase 2B trial at sites across Ireland, Germany, Spain, Poland, Czechia, and Netherlands, but UK trials never got off the ground. UK sites were activated, but couldn't enroll due to significant delays in controlled drug licenses and bureaucracy. CEO Valencia told Psychedelic Alpha. In 2022, a petition requesting the reschedule of psilocybin collected 11,824 signatures. It called on politicians to reduce unnecessary obstacles to medical research on non-curable conditions, which slow the development of new and vital treatments. In response, the conservative government stated that it sympathizes with patients suffering from distressing conditions and can understand the desire to seek the best possible treatment available, but that it had no plans to reschedule psilocybin to Schedule 2. Activist groups such as Psilocybin Access Rights are calling on the UK government to review the evidence, reschedule psilocybin, and make it accessible for researchers and doctors to prescribe to patients who could benefit. An open letter addressed to the Home Office and signed by Charlotte Nichols, MP, Vicky Slade, MP, and Chris Coughlin, MP, demand an urgent review of psilocybin with a view to rescheduling without delay. In 2023, the Home Affairs Committee recommended that the UK government urgently move psychedelic drugs to Schedule 2 in order to facilitate research on the medical or therapeutic value of these drugs. The sitting Minister of State for Crime, Policing and Fire at the time, Chris Phillips, MP, commissioned the Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs to instruct on how to reduce barriers to research for all Schedule 1 controlled drugs. The ACMD suggested that universities and hospitals conducting research with compounds like LSD and psilocybin be exempt from the need to apply for a home office domestic license. But more than a year later, the government has still not responded to the ACMD report. Of course not. Charlotte Nichols, MP, told Psychedelic Alpha that based on her recent conversations with the current Home Office Minister with responsibility for drug policy, Dame Diana Johnson, DBE MP, she understands that the government's response to the ACMD report is due imminently. I am hopeful, given Diana's deep understanding of the issue around this, as the former chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee at the time of their excellent inquiry report into drug policy in 2023, that it will be positive, Nichols said. I interpret the post-briefing as seeking to enable an evidence-based decision to take place by parliamentarians in the coming months, Nichols added. There is a nascent cross-party consensus building around this issue and the case for reform, particularly in the context of mental health crisis in our community and growing public awareness and discourse around psilocybin and psychedelics more generally, including from the places you might least expect.
Postbrief 64 states that the available evidence to support the efficacy of PAT is complicated. This is due to the relatively small number of trial participants and paucity of long-term data on the psychological and physiological effects of the drug therapy. However, in comparison with conventional antidepressant treatment, psychedelics can be more effective than commonly prescribed medication, such as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, according to the report, which is SSRIs. The brief in Providence of synopsis of the potential benefits and risks of therapeutic intervention with classic psychedelics like LSD, psilocybin, and DMT, as well as psychedelic adjacent drugs like MDMA and ketamine. It highlights short-term side effects like anxiety, nausea, and increased heart rate, but stressed that long-term effects and less understood. Despite this, the report cited evidence that suggests low toxicity and low potential for addiction with respect to psilocybin and LSD. If PAT were to be approved in the future, it's critical that safeguards are implemented which ensure patient safety, prevent drug diversion, and address ethical concerns. Furthermore, policymakers must consider to help make PAT accessible, affordable, and scalable. If it becomes an approved treatment to offer growth, there is also confusion among the public between rescheduling the drugs for research purposes and decriminalization or legalization of psychedelics, the report said. The U.S. schedule system combines law enforcement and medical regulation, which means drug penalties and medical use as determined together. But the UK uses a dual system of drug classes and drug schedules to regulate and control substances. Under the Misuse of Drug Act 1971, UK drug classes Class A, Class B, Class C rate the perceived harmfulness and potential for abuse of certain substances. Classes were created for criminal justice and law enforcement purposes. The classification determines the severity of legal penalties for possession, supply, and production. Class A, the most restrictive, has a maximum penalty for supply production of life in prison and unlimited fine both, while the possession carries up to 7 years in prison. Meanwhile, under the Misuse of Drugs Regulation 2001, UK drug schedules dictate the medical availability, prescription rules, and handling requirements of controlled drugs, which affect how accessible the substances for researchers look to conduct clinical trials. Wow.
Yeah, stakeholders interviewed for the Post report, including Psychedelic Alpha editor Josh Hardman, said they were concerned that calls to reschedule psychedelics to facilitate further PAT research were often conflated and confused with campaigns to decriminalize or legalize them due to public misunderstanding surrounding the classification and rescheduling policies combined with the stigma associated with illegal drugs. Other hindrances
prohibitively
high costs associated with PAT clinical trials. Researchers must pay license application fees of between £3,000 and £4,000, as well as annual renewal fees, inspection fees, disclosure and barring service fees for staff handling the drugs, and export and import license fees. So that's a lot, eh? Joe Neal, professor of psychopharmacology at the University of Manchester, was one of the scientists consulted for Post-Brief 64. She told Psychedelic Alpha, many people will not do this research because they cannot afford it. If they're a small institution, they haven't got much grant money. Neil said that the process for obtaining home office licenses to work with Schedule I drugs absolutely hinders collaboration and scientific research. When you write a project license, you have to be very specific about what you will do and in the way in which you will do it. She said, as a scientist, you have ideas all the time about how you would change your experiment to do something differently, and then you have to apply to the home office. And that's another 6 months and a lot of bureaucracy. Research exemptions will make a massive difference, certainly to people like me. It will make our lives much easier. We asked Neil what message she had for the UK politicians in light of the post-brief. Please move all psychedelics out of Schedule I and enable more research to happen in the UK, she said. We absolutely need to bring this to the forefront of the debate in Parliament. We have a mental health crisis, so it's imperative that government supports the research. The post-brief found that in order to better understand the safety and efficacy of psychedelic medicines, more comprehensive clinical trials with larger and more diverse patient populations over a greater time period must be conducted. But barriers to research, such as incompatible drug license, and funding timescales, limit the scale and diversity of clinical trials. Also, while deterring scientists from entering the psychedelic field and inhibiting academic collaboration. Further research, which might produce the evidence necessary to justify the rescheduling of psychedelics, is therefore hampered by the current scheduling status, a circular argument which so far has yet to be resolved. During a parliamentary debate on prescribed psychedelic drugs, Chris Phillips, MP, said, I accept that there is an element of chicken and egg or catch-22 about the situation. But we need to do the research before there is an evidence base to justify the rescheduling that might be merited. It remains to be seen how UK politicians might use the evidence contained in the post-brief 64 to escape this paradox. Yeah, it sounds like they all just want to keep passing the buck around and no one wants to actually solve a problem.
Right. Well, in that,
because it comes down to research that they can't do because of the rescheduling, but we need more research.
Well, there's a lot of caution because we went to drugs before, synthetic drugs to cure a situation of an opiate problem, which became a problem within itself, then made another medication to help that problem, which again became a problem itself. So now you want to refix another problem, mental health, with another drug, and there's a lot of caution, but now you're spending billions and billions of dollars rechanging things, hindering the situation, making it expensive, so you can't even do the therapy research in UK, it sounds like. So now it sounds even more of a problem.
I know. It's ridiculous. Politicians.
All right. Well, thank you, Bufos, for all the articles. That was our last story today. And guess what? Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network, and for tuning in to our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media site.
We really hope you've enjoyed your update today on mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint host, Tara Simpson. Oh, wait, she's over here. Tara Simpson. And to Buffalo Various for choosing the stories, and to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Dead Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way out. Bye! I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of